never went anywhere or really talked about anything other than Jimmy Clitheroe.
He was born in a different age than his character was preparing him for, and I'm glad God made that particular mistake.
The idea of eccentricity is enormously important to understanding Morrissey. He has some affinities with figures like Francis Bacon. He's fully embraced his destiny as an eccentric. I am what I am, he says, but you aren't allowed to know what I am, and that's a very, very eccentric position.
This area has completely changed recently, because I used to live down yonder, and we went walking last night and everything's just completely unrecognisable almost.
He could spend the next 30 years in LA, but he's always going to be too English for the Yanks and for most of the English.
Trumpers.
Morrissey is back in London, visiting his favourite gentleman's barbers in Mayfair.
Fascinating haunting pictures around the wall, you know. There's always a fly in the ointment. I think they're going to give me a trim and possibly just a slap around the face. A facial. Hello.
Nice to meet you, I'm Kieran.
Nice to meet you. Yeah. Wow.
So much for London. Come with the crass, outrageous and free. You are depressed, but you're remarkably dressed. That's all you need. But you're just too busy, really busy, busy. Hairdresser on fire, stoned around, stoned where?
So where do you normally live then?
I normally live in Los Angeles. If you can call it normal living.
Quite lively, is it?
Oh, yeah, but I'm not. I'm going to have to take over.
It's kind of like a maintenance routine with Morrissey.
And watch the magic.
He's undoubtedly very vain and spends an awful lot of time in front of the mirror with a hairdryer and a New York Dolls CD.
Everybody has their own techniques. Shazam.
He probably finds himself the most attractive person that you could possibly meet.
Why meddle with a masterpiece? That's all I can say.
Like him or loathe him, I think his face is really imprinted upon our consciousness because he's incredibly photogenic. I mean, I've taken photographs just of the back of Morrissey's neck, and people have still known it's Morrissey.
I just think Morrissey's sexy, full stop, really. I think whether he's on stage performing or just a photograph of him, I mean, you know, whew.
There was just this glorious moment where I think Morrissey was sunbathing, very snoozy, very sleepy. Suddenly these beautiful rays were falling through, I think it's sort of an awning overhead. Slightly more up over there. And just managed to get this, these glorious sort of zebra-like op-art stripes. I think Morrissey can play with notions of camp very, very consciously, very, very knowingly. He's very articulate, I think, in what is and what isn't camp.
The homoerotic content of the imagery is absolutely manifest, and to deny it would be extremely foolish.
I don't know what homoerotic is. I mean, I know what erotic is. I don't know what I've never heard anybody say heteroerotic. So I don't know what homoerotic means.
He may be famous for being outspoken, but when it comes to himself, Morrissey is fiercely private.
Well, I mean, absolutely nothing does he give away about himself, is my experience. Not a jot. I think the only personal detail I managed to get out of Morrissey in probably a couple of hours of conversation was the fact that he liked Coronation Street.
And he's never more ambiguous than on the subject of his sexuality.
One thing you never answered, and that's about your sexuality.
And I'm not going to.
Morrissey's sexuality was so picked over by the press in the early days that I think he has stopped. I think it's just boring more than anything else.
I don't think it's anybody's business, really. I just don't. I can't see when it becomes anybody's business. And I can't see other people talking about sex and sexuality, really, and what turns them on and turns them off. So I can't think of any reason why I should. It doesn't help me. People can think what they like.
It's almost like more regal not to let anybody know, isn't it, really?
I think he's interested in preserving the mystique that allows him, that kind of ambiguity. And frankly, good luck to him. Why the hell shouldn't he do that?
Why have you never actually put the record straight?
Well, I don't see any crooked record. People think they know, people think they understand, and it doesn't bother me in the least what people think. And there's nothing that people can think of me in that direction that would embarrass me. I don't really care what people think. I really don't. It doesn't affect me. And I'm not hiding anything.
If he could sit in an interview and say, you know, I am XYZ, he would love to do it. He would love to have that answer. He doesn't know. He's genuinely unsure about the whole world of intimacy and sexuality and relationships.
I'm writing this to say, in a gentle way, thank you, but no. I will live life as I will undoubtedly die alone.
For Morrissey, loneliness is a threat, a promise, and a validation of who he is.
It's a chosen aloneness. I think Morrissey is very, very much, so much his own person that it's, you know, takes a lot to find somebody else that, you know, can live harmoniously with that certainty.
Some people can't stand reflection, and they can't stand to be faced with their own company. But that's never remotely bothered me.
Did you ever imagine living with someone?
No, I couldn't really imagine it. I couldn't imagine why it would even take place, really. I just couldn't imagine being with somebody. I don't think human beings are meant to live together. I really don't. I don't think human beings get on in any capacity.
He now finds himself equally isolated in the music industry. Despite plenty of new material, he's yet to agree a new record deal.